Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bucs Bounty, the Pirates-specific baseball podcast, alongside Michael McKenry over there on the side this way. I forgot, cameras are always backwards. My name is Stephen Brault, and today we have joining us a very special guest, a self-defined former occasional baseball player and current sometime broadcaster for the Milwaukee Brewers, Tim Dillard. Tim, so glad to have you, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm happy to be on here. Yeah. I can't wait. I mean, I it's sad I know a little bit about the Pirates, right? I work for the Brewers, so don't hate on me yet.
Don't worry.
We've actually been enemies for a long time. If you think about it, right? We've been enemies. I mean, you're like a Brewer legend, my friend. I'm sometime whatever. The reality of it is you've been around the Milwaukee Brewers forever. So, I mean, kind of nemesis, but we were teammates. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, you talk about like being part of a Brewers organization because every baseball player, you're like, who are you going to, I want to play for the Yankees or I want to play for the Dodgers or whatever it is. Had no idea about the Brewers, but they drafted me back in 2001. And so I've kind of been a part of, I've done something for them every single year pretty much since 2001. So that's how far back we go, which is a pretty long time.
How long have you been married?
I should know this.
I got him.
Yeah, coming up on 20 years.
Okay, so
technically, Brewers were your first wife. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, honey, I've known them longer.
Okay, so drafted in 2001. Tell everybody your last year of playing professional baseball.
Yep, it was 2020, sadly, because that season, pretty much the way they restructured everything, pushed out some of the older guys like myself to get, younger players. And they didn't want a bunch of, decrepit old men hanging around anymore. So kind of got COVIDed out. It took a global pandemic to end my career, which we all knew was coming. But yeah, my last hurrah, I was in spring training with the Rangers in Surprise. And we walked in one day. They were like, "Don't even change." They're like, we're all gonna meet in the batting cages." They rolled back the cages. So like everybody, the whole organization was standing on the turf or whatever. And they were like, "Hey, everything's canceled." We were like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "Minor league baseball is canceled." So I was like, "Well, that's probably my career over." But still tried to like stay in shape and everything because they're like, "We don't know what's going to happen." And there was a group of guys we met at a high school field, and I live in Nashville, so like somewhere in Nashville off the beaten path. Sonny Gray was out there, Kurt Casale, a lot of guys, Mike Zastrzymski, everybody's out there kind of like trying to stay in shape, not knowing what's going to happen. And some guys went to the big league alternate sites or whatever, and so I just sat on my couch for like a couple months, didn't know what to do. And then I saw a post about independent baseball was playing in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Milkmen. And so I sent them an email. I said, "Hi, my name's Tim Dillard. If you need a right-handed pitcher, I would love to pitch for you." A couple weeks later, they called and they were like, "Dude, we'll happy to take you on." So that was it. That was a long-winded answer, but the answer was 2020. Finished with a championship with the Milkmen, had a chance to go back with the Rangers in spring training, 2021. But the Brewers came along and they're like, "We're looking to make some moves. And if you'll retire, we'll put you on TV." And so my wife said, yes, he will retire from playing. Thank God.
Yes, he will.
Yeah, she was sick of it.
That's wild. So I want to go back to when you got drafted. You got drafted by the Brewers. You're actually throwing over the top, if I remember correctly, right? And then you started throwing sidearm, in 2010-ish?
Yep.
Somewhere around there. What caused that change? Because you made your big league debut, right, as a guy that threw overhand, and then you dropped down. Why'd you do it? It fits your personality perfectly because you're one of those guys, little quirky, little fun. I feel like you got to have that when you're throwing sidearm. So throw that out there. Why did you do it? Because there's a lot of kids that want to play, but they're not willing to take those type of chances.
Yeah, well, go back to 2001. Yeah, I got a bat in my hand. I was actually drafted as a catcher in 2001 by the Brewers, and that back when they had the draft and follow, and then that went away for a while, and then the draft and follow came back. But in 2001, drafted as a catcher in the 15th round. And then 2002, I was drafted as a catcher in the 34th round after my first year at JUCO. And then when they had the rights to me right before the 2003 draft, I had signed to go to Ole Miss, but I did not want to go to any more schooling. I had all the schoolings I needed. And anyway, they were like, we want you to pitch, because I started pitching my junior year of high school. And I think just being a catcher my whole life and wanting to be a catcher and studying what it was like to be a catcher helped me on the pitching side of things. And I mean, I could throw pretty hard. I think I got up to maybe 95 on the college gun. Wink.
Ooh.
And anyway,
nice.
yeah, ended up signing as a pitcher. And the only reason I decided to kind of go 3/4, like a high 3/4 arm angle, because as a catcher, I was always over the top, straight over like they teach, and I was pretty good. But when I started pitching, I wanted to pitch pretty low, almost sidearm, because that was the hardest guys for me to hit in high school. I was a pretty good hitter. And when they threw two-seamers in on my hands, I could do almost nothing. But I couldn't lay off of it. So that's why
Right.
this bat I'm holding,
I feel you.
It's broken. You can tell it's broken. But yeah, that was it. I wanted to be a right-handed Randy Johnson, kind of what I was thinking. And so I kind of, between catching and pitching at the time, I was like, well, I'll just go middle of the pack for high 3/4. And 2010 rolls around. It took a long time for everybody to realize I was not very good with secondary pitches. I could never get a good slider out of my hand. Couldn't get a good changeup. Split finger was iffy. I couldn't do anything except throw a nasty two-seamer, which, nowadays would probably play. So if y'all are looking for pitching, let me know. But I could always throw a good two-seamer. All that movement. And anyway, when they switched me sidearm spring training 2010, they were like, you have a great arm. We know that. And we just need you to figure something else out. So the Brewers were like, we want you to throw sidearm. But basically they were saying like, you can do sidearm, or maybe you can go somewhere else. But me, with no dignity or pride, I was like, yeah, I got this for sure. So yeah, sidearm it is. And then I went back to the curveball that I threw back in high school, because I could figure out how to manipulate it from the sidearm. So yeah, I got back to the big leagues as a sidearm pitcher. And I actually probably didn't figure out sidearm all the way probably till about 2014 and 15 and 16, 17.
Wow.
Really hit my stride figuring it out. I've actually, taught that craft to a lot of sidearmers, because there's no handbook when you change arm angles and philosophies and sequences of how you're going to pitch. They kind of just were like, here, jump in the deep end and hopefully you'll figure it out before we release you. I didn't get there.
Yeah. So I watched an interview. I know. So I watched an interview from you with you in 2021. It was right after it was on LB Network with Matt Vasgersian, Kyle Ripken Jr. Very fun interview I watched today. And they asked you about pitching sidearm. And there was a few things I think that are missed there, that I think there was little things that pitchers go through that maybe the average person wouldn't understand. When you change your arm angle like that, obviously, like you said, you figured out that you could use a curveball that you had used before, but can you kind of talk about finding those new pitch grips? Did you change your sinker grip, for example? And then talk about maybe the different kind of soreness you had to learn, you had to go through when throwing from down there for the first time for a while. I think all that stuff really makes throwing sidearm a lot harder than people give it credit for.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely puts you in a little class. It's just different. Of course, all pitchers are different. You can go lefties and righties, and and then submariners, like those guys. We don't hang out with those guys. They're just, but yeah, they said I could probably do sidearm because I was big and strong, and I didn't understand that till I started trying to do that, and I realized, like, man, this is new soreness in new places. That's why I know it's going to rain, because my left hip is letting me know there's probably no labrum in there anymore.
Right.
But I had never missed a game due to injury in my entire career. I got all my injuries out of the way in high school and college, and it was probably the reason I ended up pitching, because I tore my labrum in my left shoulder hitting for some scouts in high school. But that's old news, 20 something years ago. So yes, sidearm. So here's what they don't tell you is, like, how are you going to pitch a hitter? And the first thing I did was actually start talking to players on the team. Like, I asked Craig Counsell, I said, we were teammates, and I said, you have faced every kind of pitcher there is. You see a right-handed sidearm guy come in, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm just waiting to get a sinker down and away because I know you're going to throw it to me. And I was like, crap. Yeah, that's about all I was going to throw to a left-handed hitter with sinkers down and away. So you almost have to realize how you're being perceived now. As a righty that steps up in there, he's not going to want to ambush a sinker in on his hands. Like, he's looking for that. And that opens up, outer third. And so things like that started creeping in, and it was a lot of trial and error. In 2010, I did pretty good in AAA, but I hit my stride the last month of the season because...
Is that when you were starting?
Yeah. I thought it was getting released. I got called into the office.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up.
And I went in there, and they gave me the silent treatment, and I was about to lose it because Brandon Kinsler was coming off the IL, and he was good. He was a big league guy. He was going up and down. So somebody in the bullpen was out of there. But what they did is they, I think, put a guy on the Phantom that was a starting pitcher. They're like, we want you to start. I was like, sweet. I'd thrown about 100 innings or so of trying to figure it out in the bullpen. Maybe like 80 innings. And so now I had a month at the end of the season to kind of put that into practice and what I could do. It's not just I get to throw 10 pitches in an inning. It's like I may get to throw 80 to 100 pitches now, to really figure out what works and what doesn't. And yeah, I realized I'm not a big analytics guy, even though I'm an analyst now for TV. But it was like in the infant stages, in 2010. Of what your stuff does, how it works. And we had this computer guy, and he was like, because they wouldn't let me go out for batting practice because I always loved to shag in the outfield during batting practice. But I was starting that day. It was the first day I was starting. And we were playing forgot who we were playing. Who were the Angels at the time? Salt Lake City, 2010? I think it was the Angels.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And yeah, so the computer guy was like, okay, cool. You want to see some of your stuff? And I was like, sure. I said, just show me every swing and miss for the entire year. So, right. It's just me punching people out,
Yeah.
That's what I got. I was like, yeah, look how good I am. I'm really good. And, but then he dug deeper and he goes, you want to know a little bit about the numbers? He said, he's 8 out of 10 fastballs that you throw that are put in play are on the ground. And I was like, okay, is that good? And they're like, well, that's almost double the big league average. So I was like, cool. If I need a ground ball, throw a fastball. Got it. I was like, what about my curveball? He goes, 50% of the time you throw it's a swing and miss. And I was like, sweet. So, I mean, technically, I could just throw all curveballs, and statistically, I'd strike everybody out. I was like, cool. And I went out there kind of using that because in those moments where you don't really know what to throw or you don't know the location, I was like, dude, I throw 2 curveballs right here. I can tank one of them. And then the second one, the guy's going to swing and miss.
Exactly.
I just started. Yeah. I did good. I threw 8 innings. I think I gave up, I don't know how many hits. I gave up 1 run. Mark Trumbo, if you remember Mark Trumbo, big old
yeah,
dude, I had him like 1-2, and I was like, he's thinking fastball, and I was about to throw the curveball because they go opposite directions, right? 2-seamer is going to sneak in, the curveball goes away from him, and I let go of that thing and I hung it, and I said, oh god. And he hit it at the old Sound Stadium. And it went over like the fence, over the guitar scoreboard and left, over the train tracks. And there's like 20 train tracks in a row right there behind it. I mean, it went into oblivion. The whole stadium was silent. I was like, I turned around to watch because I was like, I got to see this. There's planes in the air trying to getting out of the way of the baseball. But that's what I remember about that game is that even though I did give up this monster homer, I knew my stuff was good, even though my ERA or maybe wins and losses or strikeouts weren't there. I knew I was good. That was kind of the first time. And again, to your question, really long answers. I apologize, but I had to change my grip on my 2-seamer. Everybody gets a baseball, right, guys? Like you pick up a baseball, your hand goes to like a certain grip of how your hand just fits.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I had to ditch my sinker, which I hated to do because I found out that sidearm, that sinker would stay almost straight or almost have like a late cut on it. It was a hard transition because to me, I thought I had a lot of years left to play. And then suddenly I'm doing something I never really done before and didn't even know if I was having success. Didn't know if anybody cared. When you're in AAA, does anybody even care what I'm doing?
Yeah,
I got 2 kids. I'm like, my pets' heads are falling off. I'm like, what are we doing? But it worked out.
he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to get an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, and so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
Fast forward to 14, 15, 16, when you said you felt like you figured it out. What does that mean to you? And also, I caught you in 16, and I was a teammate with you in 16, so I could see it. I got to see you start, relieve, pitch at pretty much every single day that they asked you to. That's who you are. But I also want you to explain how hard it was to find where to start each pitch. Because as a sidearmer, you're going very horizontal, right? That breaking ball is moving 18 inches. You have a 17-inch plate. Very difficult to get it in the zone. And some days it moves more than others. How did you find the ability? Because you're really good about throwing strikes. How did you find that ability as you move forward? Because that had to be one of the hardest things.
These are great questions, by the way, because I'm like, I have forgotten some of this stuff for sure.
Oh, we're bringing it all
It
back.
all comes back. It comes back.
All the good.
It's in the
all
beard.
The bad.
Yeah.
It is the beard. Yeah. Actually, 2015 is the first time I debuted the beard. Before that, I wanted to look young for scouts. Yeah. I wanted to look young for scouts.
That's outstanding.
My dad played in the big leagues before I was born. He was a minor league coach forever. This is actually his bats that somebody gave me this year.
That's
he
awesome.
broke it at Old
That is
County
awesome.
Stadium, and he actually gave it to a guy, and he gave it to me. So anyway, he always said, look young for the scouts, and everybody in a day and age when all these, teammates of mine wanting to look cool and have the beard or the mustache or whatever. I shaved before every game because I was like, I want to look like a young buck. But then when the iPhone came out, you couldn't hide anymore. It was like, man, this guy's 30 years old. Like, who's he fooling out there, in AA or whatever. But yeah, I ended up growing the beard in 15. But I'll back up a little bit to 2013. I went to Mexico because I couldn't find a job in America, and had this guy come out of nowhere, a pitching coach. I was playing for the Piratas de Campeche in Campeche, Mexico, and this guy named Chilo. I don't know his first name. I don't know his last name. I don't even know if Chilo was his real name.
Yeah,
His name is Chilo.
This guy, only one. Yeah.
His name is Chilo.
That's his
I
birth
never really
certificate.
saw his eyes. Yeah. He had black sunglasses, huge mustache, and had a cigarette and a dip in. That's the crazy.
No.
I remember that so vividly. Yeah. I don't even have a photo of this guy. Don't even know if I was really playing catch with him.
Yeah.
This guy's a legend.
Like a figment of my
You're just
there.
throwing, running back and forth.
Yeah, but this guy was a sidearm pitcher in the minor leagues, almost more submarine. But played catch with him every day for like 4 days. And he taught me this sinker. The sinker would blow up your forearm on the way you'd throw it, but it was legit. And I ended up getting released in Mexico, even though I did really well. And came home, hadn't seen my family in 2 months, and immediately got a call. Went to independent ball and pitched in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for the Barnstormers in the Atlantic League. And took this Chilo pitch, and it worked. It was almost like a changeup. It was like a straight down changeup sinker. And anyway, it worked. If nobody was hitting it out of the park, because it was like physically impossible to throw it above the knee. Like I couldn't do it. The way it came out of my hand, I wouldn't teach it to anybody because it could hurt you. But I was like, I need a job. So I was throwing this thing. And anyway, got picked up by the Brewers. So I finished the year in AAA there, AAA. And then they didn't sign me back again. So I went back to the Lancaster Barnstormers the next year. And then the Brewers picked me up again in 2014. They put me in AA. I was the oldest guy in AA. And anyway, did really well. And then after that, the Brewers were like, they got kicked out of Nashville and had to go to either Fresno or Colorado Springs for AAA. So anyway, I'll slow down a little bit. I know I'm skipping a lot of years, but
No, this is great.
2014.
That's
awesome. We were in Chattanooga, I think. I forgot where we were. And I get called to the front of the bus by Chris Hook. He's now the big league pitching coach for the Brewers. And Hookie was like, hey, man, they're calling me asking to ask you. I was like, who I have everyone's number in the organization. What are you talking about? But the higher ups were wanting to know, because they just found out they got kicked out of Nashville because Nashville built a brand new stadium and got the A's to come there because there was some sort of ownership thing. I don't know. Because I thought, dude, I get to play for the Brewers, AAA at home where I live. That's the dream, right? But got kicked out. And so they asked me, Fresno or Colorado Springs? And I was like, the answer is neither. Neither place. You don't want to play. You don't want your
neither one. Exactly.
You don't want your AAA team there. The Rockies were there forever because it's an hour and a half from Denver. But the Rockies were even over it. They had a chance and they jumped ship. I think they went to Albuquerque. And so all this big shuffling was happening.
Yeah.
Albuquerque, 4,500 elevation. So anyway, they were asking me what, and I was like, I was like, so if you go to Fresno, you're going to lose a lot of guys because nobody wants to play in Fresno because the stadium was okay, but it didn't draw very well and the surface wasn't very good. And also too, you're looking at a lot of stuff with like insurance. Because of like different things they have there, taxes, like you're going to have to sign these 6-year free agents for like a lot of money because they're going to get a lot of it taken away in taxes. I was like, if you go to Colorado Springs, every hitter imaginable is going to want to sign with you guys because if they're in AAA, they're going to have like 30 bombs. I was like, but no pitchers will want to play for you in AAA. So anyway, they ended up choosing Colorado Springs, which was, I said they should do that even as a pitcher. I would still take that over Fresno. So anyway, went there and it's like playing on the moon. It really is, right? Like you're at 6,000 elevation. You give up a pop-up, it is a bomb. And what they don't tell you is that even if you give up a dink, the outfielders have to play so far back. Yep. I've never seen so many base hits land in the outfield that your first thought is that's caught just because baseball has told you that it should be caught. Anyway, I remember one time I gave up a dink. I turn around and as the ball is landing in the middle of the center field, like a little pop-up out, as it's landing, I can see the guy slide into second base, like in my view. And I was like, Colorado Springs, man. Like, this place is terrible. You should not be playing baseball here. But
it also had a terrible surface. You can mention that too.
Oh my God.
It was all the way around.
It was awful.
We like to pretend that we are so independent and everything, but let's be honest, we've been sheep our whole life, being told where to go, when to be there, what to do. So there's coaches have a lot more meaning to players, and I think a lot of people realize. And a lot of times it seems like players forget that coaches are there to offer advice for things like you just said that you can try, that maybe this coach saw work for somebody else. And so he thinks that maybe you should try this to see if it works for you. What players get lost in is that a lot of times good coaches mean if it doesn't work, come back and tell me so we can try something else. And I think that individuality, that's what the best coaches can do. I'm going to be honest, which is a great setup for myself for my next question, because you said in your interview that you played for Stan Kiles, who was my favorite pitching coach I ever had. He is the best. Stan Kiles. Still text him every now and then because he's just such a big influence on who I was and how I managed to stay in the major leagues as long as I did. Just let's go over Stan a little bit. This is a kind of guy that was much more mental, right? Much more cared about the mental side of pitching than the mechanical side of it. Do you think that is true? Do you think that the mental side of pitching can be more important than the mechanical side oftentimes?
I always said if I went back as a coach, which my wife said, please don't, but if I was going to go back as a coach, that I'd want to go to like AAA or the big leagues because I wouldn't be speaking about mechanics as much because you pretty much you get a guy out of college, he's got decent mechanics. You get a guy out of high school, he's got okay mechanics. Like mechanics can get lost in translation. You'll see Tim Lincecum and you're like, well, let's just all do that. It's like, it ain't going to happen for you. But you can talk philosophies and what you're trying to do and how you're perceived. And I just think, honestly, a lot of that is lacking. I mean, I'm looking back and I can tell you all the stuff. I can tell you all the stuff Stan Kiles used to say to me. He's like, throw it there instead of taking it there. Like you're trying to take it there, right? Just throw it. And I'm like, and it may mean something different to everybody. We called him Squid. Y'all call him Squid? What's up, Squid?
Yeah, that's what he called me. That ended up, that's his whole.
That ended up being his nickname.
Your nickname?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
What's up, Squid?
The only reason
Yeah.
I took it is because at one point he said to me, "Hey, Squid, I just want you to know that now whenever I call anybody else Squid, I mean they're acting like you." I was like, "All right, dude, awesome. I got it. That's my name now."
Yeah,
But yeah, you're
Squid.
so right.
Yeah.
He had all of these little things. He always said this guy is more dangerous than he is good, which can sound dumb, but it really those mental side of
Yeah.
baseball really worked for me. And so please continue. I just had to jump in there.
Yeah, Squid. He was big league bullpen coach for us for a few years, and my thing in the clubhouse in the big leagues. I would I didn't have a lot of time in the big leagues, but when I was there, if I saw a T-shirt that reminded me of somebody, I would get that T-shirt. You know, I got the Flash for Carlos Gomez. Saw a Flash shirt, and what I would do is I would stick it on their chair because I get to the field so early that nobody knew it was me. So I would just give T-shirt left and right, and I found a Squid shirt. I went and put it on Stan's chair, and he came out. He's in the clubhouse. He's like, "Which one of you squids got me this shirt?" We're all like, "I said squid." But Stan's, it has a lot to do. If you're a coach out there and you're listening or whatever, it matters when you're coaching. Like when you want to tell something to a player. Like if there's a guy that's balking on the mound, that's pretty urgent. You need to tell him, "Hey, you need to stop." If you've got to come set, like that's something you got to address in the moment. There's some stuff that you should talk to a player when he's not pitching that day or not playing that day. Or maybe it's early in the day. Hey, this is what you need to think about. And it's how you come to a player. And Stan was just very calm, very calming. He wasn't screaming at anybody. He wasn't mad. He was even. He was the same guy every single day. Those were my favorite pitching coaches. Those are my favorite coaches in general, are the guys that whether we're losing, whether we're winning, whether it's April or August, and everybody hates everybody in August, they're the same guy. They're the same guy. Because if they're the same guy every day and they're consistent that way, what they say, you can trust more than a guy that's just one day he's screaming and yelling, and then the next day he's telling, "Hey, Dill, you got to throw a 12-6 curveball." What? Yeah, you need to start learning that. I'm like, well, I throw 3/4. That's going to be hard for me. No, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, well, I don't trust this guy. I can't trust. But Stan was a guy you could trust. And another guy too, Mike Maddox. I remember one day we were just shooting the breeze in spring training, and Mad Dog was like, he would use these analogies, and he's like, "Dillard, do you ever play lacrosse?" I was like, "Lacrosse?" I was like, "No, man, I went to high school in Mississippi. Like, we don't know what lacrosse is. Like, I don't know what that is." He goes, "Well, maybe you're a good lacrosse player." Basically what he's saying is, don't just be content with what you got. There's little things that you could do or add to your game that's going to make you better. You don't even know it yet because you haven't tried it. And so I like those kind of things. They stick with you and you can remember it years later, like when you're on a podcast.
I love that you guys brought up Stan Kyle and the fact that he talked to you like human beings. And I had a theory, even when I played, is focus on the personality and then the philosophy and worry about the physicality after that. Because the reality of it is you have to figure out who this person is, how they tick. Some guys like that calmness. Some guys like that funny. Some guys like to have that hard demeanor come at them. And both of you guys you guys are very thoughtful. You're great human beings and you can think deeply. So I would treat you guys probably very similar. But at the end of the day, like when you're talking about philosophy, both of you guys, when it comes to pitching, talk about how that is missing the game. Because I was just catching a kid Saturday. He's out of high school. He has this big want to. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll work with you as much as you want to show up. He shows up. He's working at the Armory for 5 weeks during the summer. Dude, he knows nothing about pitching. He knows nothing about himself. And I was like, this is wild. And I'm seeing that more and more, going back to the personality, the philosophy, because I told him what you guys have reiterated over and over again. You're not going to pitch if you don't throw 1,000. Those guys are going to get hurt, or you're going to get an opportunity because you're the guy getting outs. If you're getting outs, you're going to continue to pitch. They'll just be like, well, he's getting outs. Just throw him back out there. And it like dawned on him, oh, maybe I just need to focus on dominating the zone. And dude, he was a different animal the last 10, 15 pitches of his bullpen in the first 15 when he literally couldn't hit my car. and I drive an SUV. It was wild. And to see that over and over again, right?
I'm a
So I want you
limousine
guys to
driver,
talk
and he
for a
couldn't
bit.
even hit my car.
No, I'm telling you, he couldn't have. He could have been driving a dump truck and he wouldn't have hit my car. But what I'm saying is, you guys got to see this transition in baseball to where it was, these terminologies or these terms, whether they're funny or not, that help guys get back to it. You didn't even really know what they meant most of the time. To now, it's very logical, it's very thought through, but it's not really thought through with the human being.
No one destroys a baseball like O'Neal Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
I want to talk about your clubhouse presence, because you're talking about communication, and I think the Cubs are another team that's well advanced. And I have some really close friends over there, and they talk a lot about it's an open dialogue with everyone. So they want to hear, what's your thought, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, whether you're behind a computer. They want to hear, what's the things that are bothering you? What are the things you like? Why do you think this is good? Why do you think it's bad? How can we get better? I feel like that's dead. Even back in the day in 14, 15, we would sit around the clubhouse for an hour after the game and break down the game, think about what we could have done better, how we could have done it. So one, we could leave it at the field, so I didn't take it home. But the biggest thing, that's when you learn the most, is because it's fresh in your mind, because you just noticed what happened. Like you were saying, talk about that dynamic dying, because you were kind of an old head when it comes to that stuff. And we all love baseball. We're still in it, and we talk about it. So obviously we probably fell into this category very easily, but I think it's what guys miss. Because if you go in the clubhouse now, 15 minutes after the game, it's empty. And I can't even shower that fast, and I'm not a big person. I have a lot to wash, but I can't go that fast. I don't know how they do it. It's like they go in, jump in, get wet, and bounce.
Yeah. I mean, that is a great analysis. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. I'm the Captain Cliche. That's the only thing I could come up with. It goes back to, if you remember,
cape?
It was video that killed the radio star, right? So you think about it. You've probably read this, the one of the Ted Williams books, The Art of Hitting 400 or 300, or the science. I forgot the title. But if you read in this book, there's a great So there's a great paragraph in this book, and he talks about back in the day when they traveled by train. And there was nothing to do except sit around, talk about the game, maybe play some cards. So your team is always together. They're always in close quarters, and they have nothing else to do except talk about the game. He said he got more he would listen to what other guys talked about. He would hear their stories, and that helped him be a better ball player. So you fast forward, and it's, maybe you could say it's the iPhone, or maybe it's the television, or whatever it is. Guys are just not talking about the game enough, is really what it comes down to, because you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of guys out there that know a lot. Like I had R.A. Dickey my first year in AAA, and he took me under his wing. He didn't have to do it, but he did. And man, he taught me so much just by hearing him and what he went through, how he perceives pitching, how he perceives baseball. And then you go to the next guy, and you go to the next guy. And that's why if you're not sticking around the clubhouse, or you don't, show up early, and you don't stay late, and, sometimes you got to bounce. Sometimes you do got to get out of the clubhouse, but you got to talk about it. You got to talk about baseball, because that's how you get better. Yes, you need to play the game, but you talk about it left and right. Hey, I know this guy. Hey, I remember this one time I talked to this guy. And you'd be surprised what you find out. And that's where a lot of the stories come from. It's not me telling the story. It's me hearing CC Sabathia talk to, Ben Sheets about something. And I'm like a fly on the wall going, that's pretty legit. Never heard of that before, And maybe it doesn't even work for me because I'm not left-handed. And so, maybe I can share with a lefty in the bullpen one day, be like, you know what, I heard this one time. And I'm telling you that you have to talk about the game. And the problem is nobody wants to, talk about it a lot of times, just because maybe they're upset with the game or they don't care that much. But you can get better just talking shop. And I mean, you talk about the clubhouse, you're talking about good clubhouses and how all that works, the open dialogue. You have to be able to trust your teammates. And the more you talk about the game, I think you build a level of trust there. And I remember Jet Bandy. I'm sure you know Jet Bandy.
Oh, yeah. Jet Bandy, dude.
Yeah. I love Jet Bandy.
I never met Jet Bandy.
I don't even know if he has a cell phone. His dad actually taught Tom Cruise how to do the drink thing in Cocktail. You know, his dad's like a professional. Yeah, dude, he's got Jet Bandy.
So he's like Chuck Norris of baseball. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But whatever that means, Jet Bandy's really slow. But he's the best, man. So what I started to do later in my career was communicate to my catchers, because especially in AAA, you may have 10 catchers come through in a season. So I condensed my signs. I don't know if you remember them or not, but anyway, they're 4-2, 1-3, first sign, shake first. I know they got pitch comm now, so none of this matters, but 4-2 were fastball and 1 and 3 were curveballs, just because nobody's going to pick that up. No one's going to figure it out. And if you're really good at catching, then you can, 4 can be fastball away and 2 can be fastball in, and it never changes lefty or righty. So there's so many sequences that can happen just out of 4-2, 1-3. That no one's going to know what to, pick up the signs. So to make sure my catchers knew this, I'd walk in every day and go, hey, 4-2, 1-3, first sign, shake first. And I remember Jet Bandy one day was like, Dillard, I'm so tired of you telling me your signs every day. I'm sick of it. I'm like, all right. And then about a week later, he's catching me. I'm on the mound, and he just puts down a 1. I think he grounded out, so he gets back there. He's not really thinking, and he just puts down a 1. And I'm like, he didn't want me to throw a curveball. He just doesn't. He's like, and I'm like, no. And he's like, 1. And I'm like, no. And he goes, yeah, my bad, Dilly. I mean, middle of the game. I'm like, all right. And he just, starts snapping back into it. And he apologized. He's like, man, I can't believe I forgot your signs. So you
told him again the next day for sure.
Yeah, you definitely told him.
Every single day. I could text Jose Trevino right now. He knows my signs. Maldonado. I mean, all these guys, they just remember this because you throw to them so much. So anyway, fast forward, Jet Bandy and I were with the Rangers in AAA in Nashville in 2019 together, and he already knew my signs, but because we had talked baseball so much, and he loved to hold court and just talk about baseball, that level of trust. And so after I would warm up to go into a game, or I was warming up to start a game, I would just ask him, hey, am I going to get somebody out today? And he's like, yeah, man. And then one day I get done throwing the bullpen. It was okay. I'm about to start the game. I walk up. I go, Bandy, am I going to get somebody out today? Jet Bandy goes,
I'm not sure today.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
I was like, but that, I trusted him so much that I was like, and he couldn't put his finger on it. It wasn't crisp. It wasn't coming out. Dude, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I'd been locked in like this in a long time. After he told me that, we laughed for a second, and then I really was like, I got on the mound, dude. I'm clearly in my mind, I'm like, I don't have my best stuff at all. So I was totally locked in, and I think I did really well. I mean, I don't know if that was the day I threw the complete game or not, but I mean, I think I did really well because I was, in my mind, I'm like, my stuff is trash right now, and I'm not going to get anybody out.
That's awesome.
And that came from feedback of a guy that I trusted, because we talk baseball. If you talk baseball, there's so many good things, and those are the best clubhouses to be a part of.
Yeah, I love the way you put it, holding court. That's something I think people don't really understand nowadays, because what it used to be was big leagues or AAA, either level you were in, there was always those veteran players who had been around the game for a long time, had played with people that you grew up watching and you thought were awesome. And I'll never forget my AAA experience in 2017, when to start the season, I was so angry, sorry, that I was even there. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be in the major leagues, and I thought I deserved to be there. And there was a guy on the team. His name was Dan Runzler. He played in professional baseball for a very long time, lefty reliever. And he was 33 at the time. I think I was a 23, 24-year-old kid who thought he knew everything. And I wasn't doing very well to start the year. And I was doing well, but I was mad that I wasn't in the big leagues, and I was being all salty one day in the clubhouse. And he came up to me. He didn't put it out in front of everybody. He just came up to me individually and said, do you want to be known as the annoying, whiny kid who thinks he deserves more than he has? And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, dude, you better stop acting like this or everybody's going to hate you. And it was just hearing that from somebody who I respected, who I trusted, who knew the game, had been in the game for a long time. It made me understand that I don't want to be that guy. Put my head down and worked. And it was so helpful to have that guy that you trusted, that you would go to after that anytime I had any kind of concern about what I was doing or how I was acting or what I could be doing better. I would go to Dan Runzler because he was the guy who I really trusted as somebody who could help me in so many ways, not just on the field, but as a teammate and as a team leader. Was there anybody like that specifically for you, Tim, that you remember that really helped you along that path? Like not a coach, but a teammate.
Yeah. Just when I was younger. Yeah. I have to go back to R.A. Dickey because, I mean, I'd never been in AAA, and this is back when you had to wear suits or bring a suit along, and you flew on the planes, and we were, because it was Dillard and Dickey, we were always next to each other. Our lockers were next to each other. We're sitting next to each other on the plane, and he was with the Brewers. He thought he was at the end of his career. He lives in Nashville, so he was like, this is his last hurrah, and then he's going to hang him up. Ends up being the Pacific Coast League like pitcher of the year. Ends up winning Cy Young with the Mets in 2012, throwing knuckleballs. But Dickey had a horrible first half. He was not doing well. I think he got put into the bullpen or something like that. Because what he would do is he'd throw a knuckleball, and these umpires, probably keyholing a little bit just because they're not used to calling a knuckleball. And then he'd get behind in the count, and he'd throw a fastball, and dudes would tattoo it. So one day we're in, I think, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. And anyway, he would have movie nights, him and Chris Barnwell. If you remember Chris Barnwell, shortstop. So him and Barney, they would call everybody in the room, and because they didn't want to go, out, or maybe it was gambling or staying out all night, these guys would stay in, and the guys that would stay in, they're like, hey man, come hang out in our room. And I remember this is back when the TVs were huge and they were bolted to the furniture, like the big tube television.
Yeah.
And you had the yellow button, and you could rent a movie. And I get in there like, what movie are we watching? And Dickey was like, we're watching Night at the Museum. I was like, oh my God, this is 2007. I'm like, we're watching The Night at the Museum. And there's like eight ball players in there. And Dickey always had the best t-shirts. He's wearing like this Bruce Lee t-shirt. And he was not doing well. I'm telling you, he was getting hit. And, he was the same guy every day, when he was doing really well or doing really bad. He was doing really bad. And anyway, he still would make the jokes. And I'm sitting off to the side of the bed, and he goes, Dilly, he's like, come sit in the bed with Dickey. I was like, all right. So I sit in the bed. So here we are, just laying on his bed. He's got this Bruce Lee shirt on. And in the middle of A Night at the Museum, he turns to me and goes, Dilly? He said, Dickey's got to stop throwing. He didn't talk in third person all the time. He was just being funny. But he goes, I need to get ahead with the knuckleball. He's like, I got to stop throwing all the fastballs. He's like, I need to get ahead with that knuckleball. I was like, he goes, I got to throw it right down the middle. And I was just like, okay. And, whatever. Don't know what that means, but got it. And the next game, he went out there and just started carving. And he did that for the rest of the year. He got player of the year, I think, threw a ton of innings. And it prolonged his career for another like 8 years. And it was just that kind of stuff of just being aware. Like you talk about guys with feel, like he just had feel. We talk about this in baseball all the time. And if you're not part of a team, you don't know what feel is, but if you're part of a team and young kid is playing sports, you get an idea for, how you come across with your teammates and stuff like that. And he had so much feel. And every time he was going through something, he would talk to me about it, of what his adjustment was going to be. stuff like that, so that I would be self-aware enough that in the moment this is a moment I need to figure it out. I can't keep doing the same old thing, or I gotta talk to an older guy and find something. Or maybe when I was older, then I get to start sharing those moments of like, you know what, I've been throwing too many fastballs down and away to lefties. They're getting good looks. I got to start doing this and expressing that to a teammate. But yeah, Dickey's the guy that comes to mind when it's like the older guy in the clubhouse. Bandy was good later on. I think I'm older than him. David Carpenter, had him in 2019.
Great human.
He was awesome.
Great human.
Yeah, great human. He's coaching now. I think he's a AAA coach for somebody now.
Somebody else.
Carp. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else. I had a bunch of teammates. Of course, everybody in the big leagues council was awesome. In the big leagues, LaTroy Hawkins. Hawkins,
another good one.
What is the man? This I don't know if he has a book. He should.
He should.
But the way he talked about the game, I would be paying attention to him more than the actual game. Trevor Hoffman too. If that guy opened his mouth, whatever you're doing, you just stopped and you listened.
You better.
Was great
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm name dropping, but I don't know these guys. I don't have all their phone numbers.
Awesome.
I'll just tell you that.
I spent a lot of time with LaTroy in Colorado. Caught his 1,000th appearance, and it was the coolest moment for me. Probably cooler for me than him. Honestly, I was like,
yeah,
wow, this is legendary. This is so sick.
Well, you hear that all the time from catchers. I mean, when they're catching like a legit game from a pitcher, and the catcher comes out and says, "Thank you," like, "Thank you for letting me be a part of this." Like, I love those things. You hear about those stories,
it's so
man.
true.
Yeah.
That
There's
relationship, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up earlier the relationship between players in general. There needs to be more talking in general. One thing, my soapbox that I get on as much as possible is that pitchers and position players need to communicate more often, because there's nobody better for a pitcher to ask how they should pitch than what you said earlier. You asked a hitter on your team, "Hey, how would you approach me? How would you approach me specifically? That way I know what hitters are looking for." And the same thing for a hitter. If you go up to a pitcher on your team who watches you play every single day, and that person says to you, "I would pitch you like this," then that's the kind of guy, that's such good information that I think is often lost. Michael's really good with that because he believes in the catcher-pitcher relationship more strongly than almost anybody I've ever met. And Michael, maybe you can talk about this too, about that relationship between players and why it's so important for guys who play together all the time to communicate about what they're seeing the other guys doing.
Well, I'm obsessed with it because, to your point, Tim, it's the relationship side, right? It's the trust. Once you're out there and everything goes haywire, are you going to trust the pitching coach that's just pissed off that you're not throwing strikes? You're going to trust the guy that literally he gets the win and loss with you. He has the ERA with you. Everything is together. Where the pitching coach, like, "Oh, he just didn't have his stuff today." No, it doesn't matter if he has his stuff. Can we compete today? And I think, to your point, bro, being able to go to the shortstop, going back to you talking about the shift and saying, "Hey, dude, what are you seeing? I feel like I get destroyed every time I have a chance to get a double play. They're doing this." And then all of a sudden he's like, "Well, from my vantage point, you're trying to induce the ground ball. The ball's a little elevated and they're able to hit a little bit harder. So it's out of my reach." Whatever it may be, but they can give you that feedback that you'll never be able to have unless you ask them, unless you talk to them. Because you can talk about approach and how you would approach those guys is one thing, but defensively, you can get so many gifts. Because back in my time, and I was talking to Jack Wilson just the other day, the dude used to call pitches because he can see it from the front. I'm catching, I can feel it, and I can see it from the back. I can understand, sometimes they foul a ball off and it's really off their label. It's not actually a good foul ball, but it's straight back. He's bowed up. You're like, "Dude, you have no clue what you just did. There's no way you're going to hit this fastball in. No chance, because you are so long right now." But as a position player, even an outfielder, I've had incredible center fielders be able to come in and be like, "Hey, dude, I'm having a hard time seeing, is this guy diving in? It feels like he's diving all over me." They're like, "Yeah, but then he's opening up late." Like, okay, so maybe he's playing a little game. Didn't happen as much as it used to. But I do think, going back to that communication, if you're willing to be vulnerable and ask those questions, you're going to learn so much. And it seems like that's something you took pride in, Tim.
Yeah, it comes down to self-awareness, like how you're perceived.
Amen.
So I got 3 kids. My youngest is 10. and he's on this. It's not really a travel team. I mean, we'll travel like an hour away. I don't know if it's not a travel team. It's not like it's all the coaches are the dads or whatever, but it's not park and
Right,
rec,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't even know what it's called. It's like a hybrid. And anyway, I'll get in the batting cage with these kids, and I didn't even know their names for a while, and I finally got to know them all because I'm here and gone. You know, I'll be working in Milwaukee, and then I'll pop back in, you know, for a week and go to practice. But I just would throw them. I'm like, these kids are hitting, right? And I'm just throwing, and you know, there's like a bigger kid. You know, every team has like that big kid. You know, this is for an example of like how you're perceived. And I would throw pitches away, and you could tell he just couldn't hit a pitch away. You know, I throw it in, it's like whack, you know, or down middle, but I just throw it outer third, no big deal. He couldn't hit it. And I would just stop, and I'm like, listen, he's like, you do agree that you're like the biggest kid on this team? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, and you can hit a ton. He's like, yeah. I was like, if I'm a pitcher, I'm going to throw every pitch away from you. I just am. I'm not going to throw you in. You destroy in. You know, as soon as you pull a foul ball into the parking lot, I am not throwing that anymore. I'm going to throw everything away. I was like, so if you can't hit away, every single pitcher is going to throw it there. Like, just to break it down of like, if you're the smallest kid, we got another kid that's like really small. And this dude knows he's going to get a strike because every pitcher is like, this kid looks like he's going to break his arm if he swings, you know? So it's like, how are you perceived? And so on the big scale of it, my dad always used to say, you know, in the minor leagues, right, you got roommates on the road and such. But my dad would always say position players never wanted to room with pitchers because pitchers would just complain about the game, or they complain about the guy making the error, and nobody wanted that kind of trash talk going on. So I always wanted to break that mold. I never wanted to just be roommates with my best friend. I wanted to be roommates with anybody. And so I actually would start telling, it was the strength guy that would do like the rooming lists on the road. I would say, just give me the last guy, because there's always one guy that's last. And if I'm the last guy,
to get picked.
tell me now.
Give me the kid that didn't get picked for dodgeball.
Yeah.
I want that guy.
Yeah.
I got all
I'm
these
always the last
degenerate-
one. Ah.
I don't want to be like, but anyway, I was just like, and they were like, okay, because that kind of helps him, because he'd go, hey, who you want to room with? Well, I want to room with this guy. You know, it's like, well, he's already rooming with this guy. It's like, you're rooming with that guy. And so to make sure it doesn't, you know, become a thing, I'm like, just give me the last guy. I mean, again, I was in AAA for so long. I had so many roommates. And anyway, usually it's the guys that are having the toughest time. You know, either they're not self-aware or they're doing bad and they just have a bad attitude. And so I just felt like that was more important than me getting a good night's sleep or whatever. Like I was asking for conflict because I didn't care. And that, if you're going to be a good teammate,
that's what it is.
think you want to reach everybody. You want to be friends with everybody because you don't know what you can learn from them and what they can learn from you. And so I would get these roommates, and it seemed like it always happened in New Orleans. These guys would come back at like 2 a.m. Who knows what they were doing? They come back in and they're just, you know, probably a little, you know, boozy and just not feeling good, you know, not in life, you know, I'm having trouble at home, or I'm having trouble on the field, and, you know, I don't even know if I'll have a job next week. And, you know, and then that's when you can kind of pour into these guys, because then you get to better understand them. And then you fast forward. I went to play in Venezuela in 2014 at the end of the year, went and played in, Maracaibo. It's Aguilas del Zulia. And anyway, I you know, not a lot of guys spoke English, and so I got to learn more Spanish than I already did, even though you pretty much know Spanish if you play baseball. But what I really got to know is the culture in Venezuela, with the people, with the fans, seeing the different cities, seeing what they have to go through. And it really gave me a heart for Latin guys like maybe I didn't have before. Maybe I did, but you know, now I understand it. And I remember one day in Colorado Springs, one of our Latin guys playing music pretty loud. Shocker, you know, no Latin guys play music loud. And it doesn't bother me. I'm always the first in the clubhouse. A lot of times I slept there, but anyway, I didn't care. He's playing music. No big deal. And one of the pitchers comes in who wasn't doing well, and he's like screaming and yelling, like, turn this off. He's getting on the guy and all this. And I had to pull him aside later on. Kind of like, you know, we already shared earlier. I pulled him aside later on. I'm not really that guy. I don't like to, you know, confrontation in that way. But I just said, listen, and I was like, let him play his music. I was like, you know, he's from Venezuela, right? Do you know that he has a wife and kid and they're stuck in Venezuela? Do you know what's going on there right now and how little he sees his family? Like, if he wants to listen to music, who cares? It's not bothering anybody. But for you to yell at him is not helping anything, you know. And this is back when they were having like, you know, riots and stuff going on in Venezuela. Like, it's, you know, it's tough. And I'm just using this as an example. Is you don't know what somebody's going through. You don't know what they're going through unless you're communicating. And it's not a sob fest like everyone air their problems. You know, it's not that. It's if you have the chance to be vulnerable and you're surrounded by people that want to help, eventually you'll be the person that does need that help. And there's some people out there that you can trust. That's what being a good teammate is.
He got him, and he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to give an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, and so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
Tim, one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about when it comes to now being a broadcaster, one of the things that you have really made sure that people understand is that you are never going to hate on a player because you know how hard it is to play this game. And so it's something that Michael and I have talked about a lot. Sometimes you get asked, why don't you hate on the players more? Why don't you talk about things that they're doing wrong more? And it's like, well, the truth is, I did not do a lot of the things that this person does really well. Like I couldn't do that even when I played in the major leagues. And so you can kind of see that difference. And the way that you broadcast is something I really, really enjoy. Can you talk about your style of broadcasting and what you try to bring to the fans, especially of Milwaukee, but to anybody that you're broadcasting for?
Yeah, well, for me, it starts back in 2008. I remember, so we were in Chicago before they redid the clubhouse. So the old clubhouse, I mean, it's still small, but you know, you're in that
beautiful.
clubhouse. Yeah. And then, the GM walks in and he says, we just fired Ned Yost. And we're all just like, what? This is September, I think. And like, we're trying to get in the playoffs. I say I'm barely there, you know, I'm sharing a locker, in the world's smallest clubhouse. But, you know, we had CC Sabathia, right? So, like, we're, you know, Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun, like, we were trying to make something happen here. 2008, getting that wild card spot. We're heading for it. And all of a sudden, they're like, all right, we got Dale Schwame. He's going to be the new manager. And he's probably not as familiar as, you know, Ned Yost or somebody to you guys. But so Dale walks in, you know, he had a great career, played with the Brewers, great baseball guy. He was the hitting coach. So now he's the manager. And the first thing he says, clubhouse is silent. You know, some guys maybe knew something was coming, but for the general public right there, we're all like, what in the world just happened? And Dale says something I'll never forget. He goes, I will never forget how hard this game is. That's the first thing he said to the group of guys. I'll never forget how hard this game is. So, like, that's what you want from a coach, to be like, listen, everything I'm telling you is going through the filter of remembering how hard this game is. I do that as a broadcaster just because the game is hard enough. What I want to do, when I'm going to start hating on people, like, that's lazy. That's easy. Anybody could do that. Anybody can roll out of bed. Anybody can roll out of bed and broadcast and be like, this guy's terrible. You know, that's there's nothing entertaining about that at all.
No.
So for number one, like, that's not even on my radar of like, I want to tell the why behind the why is my thing. So like, if I see Bryce Terang, who dives all the time and he dives for a ball and doesn't get it, I'm not going to be like, oh man, he usually makes that play. What's going on? I would say, you know what? This guy dove last night 4 times in the game. Like, he's probably a little sore. He probably is not as quick as he was yesterday. He's probably a little banged up. And I was like, if you think diving's easy, then I want you to get off your couch, walk outside, just go dive on your lawn. I would break my leg. I would break my leg if I did that right now. So to sit there and it looks easy on TV, my job, I feel like, as a broadcaster, is help explain like how hard it is, like what's going on in this moment. Why is this moment a big deal? You know, what all is happening right now. And so, and I'm sure Michael does the same thing, talking about the catching, part of the aspect, the pitching, the approach. Oh, here's what he's thinking. Oh, he's hit everything to right center the last 2 at bats. Let's see how they're going to pitch him right here. Because again, I just go back to paying attention. Like, I'll say some stuff and people, tweet at me like, this guy's an idiot. He said this right here. And I'm like, I want to defend myself on social media, but I don't. But like, sometimes I'll message people if their messages are open, and I'll just be like, well, I'll do this after the game. I'm like, well, the reason I said that is because last night this happened. And then usually I get something back like, oh, well, I didn't watch last night's game. It's like, well, then I should have maybe said that. Like, to me, it's about getting it right in a fun manner, because you get done at work and people sit down, they want to watch TV, and they don't want to be told this guy should be doing this. And they don't want to be, showered with analytics. This guy's OPS is 900 against lefties in a dome on Thursday. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I think people want to sit down and watch baseball and enjoy themselves. And so that's what I try to bring to it and the best compliment I ever got. I don't know if I'm very good or not. I want to think I'll be good one day, but the best compliment I ever got is from Miles Michaelis, who's with the Cardinals. I'd never met Miles Michaelis. I think he has a fantastic mustache. So a couple years ago, the Brewers are playing the Cardinals, and I'm just, I wear the same thing every time too. This is what baseball does to you. I wear the same jacket, same shirt, every broadcast. So anyway, he comes out of the dugout and he's going out to left field to play catch. And he kind of looks back, and I'm like, I'm the only one kind of standing there. I'm by the grounds crew. I'm just shooting the breeze with the grounds crew. And then he kind of looks back again and goes jogging. Then he looks back again and stops. Then he starts jogging back towards me. And I'm like, Miles Michaelis. I'm like, I don't know if I know him or not. I was like, maybe I hit him in the minor leagues years ago. I don't know. Like, he's a big dude. He wears his pants up, but like, the closer he gets, I'm like, man, he's a big guy, and I can't read him because the mustache is so big. So I'm like, oh man, did I say something bad about him in a game? I don't think I would do that. He comes over and he goes, you don't know me. I was like, of course I know who you are. You're Miles Michaelis. He goes, I'm strange. You may know who I am, because he was like, hey, Tim. And I shook his hand, and he goes, I just want to say that I've heard some of your games on the TV or watching film. And he goes, I think it's awesome. He goes, I think you're doing a great job. It's almost like you're sitting in the bullpen narrating the game. He's like that, and you're using awesome. The baseball lingo, and it sounds like a player's doing the game. He goes, I love that. And I'm going, Miles Michaelis watches our broadcast. No, it was probably just on in the clubhouse, starting pitchers just, chilling or whatever during it. But anyway, right. I just thought that was really cool, because honestly, I don't want to say anything on air that would bother a player, that would bother a player's parents or family or friends that are watching, because I hated that. If I'm in the minor leagues and the radio guy's bashing our first baseman, and then the wife hears about it because she's not on the road trip, and she tells him after the game, and then he has to go tell the radio guy, like, dude, you're bashing me, like, you're our radio guy. That kind of stuff, that shouldn't happen, but you'd be surprised, right? We all know a story or two there. So anyway, I just was like, well, good. If this is an opposing team player that's that's saying something. Yeah. So that kind of stuff, because there is no, in baseball, you have stats. If you want to know you're a good pitcher, look at your ERA, look at your strikeouts, that kind of stuff. If you're a good hitter, look at your average. Good fielder, broadcasting has none of that stuff. There's no statistics. I don't even get a lot of feedback from like the people I work with. They're like,
it means you're doing good.
They're like, hey, you're doing adequate, man. Keep it up. Like, oh, yeah. Okay, cool. I'm adequate. Like,
your OPS is great during that day game with the dome. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like that Seinfeld episode with the guy that's like, Lane, congratulations on a job done. Mr. Peterman. Yeah. Whatever. I'm just like, we don't know if we're doing good or not. So yeah, I do get stopped every once in a while on the concourse by fans for sure, but sometimes by a family member of a player. And they're like, you don't know me. I'm such and such's mom or such and such's dad. Just want to say, like, love, that's hearing awesome. You talk about this team and stuff like that. Like, that right there really helps, because that's more important than being edgy or being saying something really cool that's gonna, that's negative. Like, we all get those negative thoughts, and not baseball. You're like, I'm the worst player ever when you're in the clubhouse. And then when that kind of stuff happens, I feel like you're looking too much inward, like being selfish. Like you can be a selfish broadcaster. You can make it about yourself. You really can. Baseball, you can make it about yourself. We all know those teammates. And I always felt better when I was not paying attention to myself at all. Like I'm not even a big fan of myself, honestly. But I want to point outward. Like I want to highlight these guys. I want to highlight the players. I don't care which team they're on. If a guy makes a good play on the other team, I'm going to highlight that. Look at this, talk back to the director or the producer. Just say, hey, can we run this play back even though it's the other team? Just to talk about this right here, this base running thing. Like, I think that's cool. Like, that's the stuff that we should be doing. Let's highlight everything else. A good team, be a good teammate in the clubhouse, highlight the other guys in the room. And if you're not doing that, you may not know it, but you're probably thinking too much about yourself, which is never a good thing.
Let me tell you right now, Tim, we are all cut from the same cloth. Me and Brault literally just love the game. And if it's good on the other side, it's good on the other side. I want to kind of rewind a little bit. And I feel like all this is really evident because you're one of the first guys that became a baseball influencer on social media. And you had that personality to bring people in. I'll never forget, I get traded over to Colorado Springs. I'm probably a week in. I'm doing my hot, cold tub before I go play. Did it every single day. You come in and be like, hey, dude, here's what you're going to do. I'm like, okay, let's go. And I was underneath the water, and you're like, when you feel like somebody's around, just pop up. And we did a video. I'm sure you posted it, but like you always brought that camaraderie. And I feel like that came into your broadcast. What made you know to start that? Because you were ahead of the game. You were ahead of Major League Baseball. You were kind of on trend with what was going on in the world. But Major League Baseball seems to always be a little bit behind the actual trends of what's going on in life. How did you know that? How did that lead you into broadcasting? Because I knew that's where you were going. There was no doubt in my mind you were going to be on TV, making content because you were so good at it as a player.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I knew I was never going to be a broadcaster due to my playing career. I had to do.
No, I think guys that have the careers like yours make the best broadcasters, make the best coaches. If everything went well, what are you going to teach somebody? Oh, let me tell you how I did it. Well, I can't do it like you, bro. You were really, really good. Yeah. I was okay. I was good at times.
Yeah, I was okay.
Bad at times, but most of the time it was just okay. So
it is true. I thought that before I became a broadcaster. I was like, some of my favorite guys to listen to are the ones that didn't have like the biggest, longest career. And not that the guys that are really good, the Hall of Famers, it's not like they're bad, but if you're Cal Ripken, it's like, why didn't he just pick the ball up and throw a laser beam across the diamond? Why didn't he just do that? Like,
yeah, just easy like that. No problem.
Because not everyone can do it. Like A-Rod's like, why didn't he just stay back on that curveball and hit it 500 feet? It's like, well, not everyone can do that, bro. So yeah, like the videos you're talking about, they started in 2015, maybe even before that, but I think 2015. That's where I got popular, was on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, is posting videos from the clubhouse. And I came in one day, and Brent Leach, left-handed pitcher, pitched for the Dodgers. I knew him. He was teammates with my brother in college. And I came in one day and he goes, hey man, have you ever heard of this Dub Smash app? And I was like, no, I don't even know what that is. And he shows me, and it gives these little bitty clips, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, where it gives you audio and then you can do the video. So the first one I did was Anchorman, because I have the beard, right? So I laid down in front of the wall right next to my locker, and I hit the button, and I was like, it's so hot. And I got the milk out of the clubhouse fridge, and I was like, milk was a bad choice, but it was Will Ferrell doing, Ron Burgundy. That was the audio, and I was just filling in. I used to do this stuff as a kid. Me and my brothers, we would lip sync to songs and stuff and put them on VHS, and we would we'd give them to our grandparents for Christmas presents. That's how I grew up.
That's really cool.
And so for me, I was like, this app was made for me, But the Dub Smash app ended up getting, I don't know if it got sued or it's terrible now, but it's so much copyright infringement. So I decided I'll just make this stuff myself, where I'll just rip it from the internet, songs, commercials, whatever it is, movies, TV. And then I'll just make these clips and try to relate them to baseball a little bit, talking about using the hot cold tub or some of the equipment that we have. We have bats. We use these for guitars nonstop, all sorts of stuff. And, just started making these videos. And I remember I made several of them and I was pretty much not putting any players in them. I made probably 50 in a span of about 24 hours after I learned this app. And I don't think hardly any, I didn't make any, show anything in the clubhouse. And then I was like, I need to make sure, because this was about to get, I felt I'm going to make one of these a day for sure, because they're that fun. So I was like, I need to make sure that's okay. So I kind of ran it up the ladder and I said, hey man, are you okay if I make these videos? And he goes, Dilly, I'm just going to let you know that my mom texts me every time you post one of these videos. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, because, it's a rule. Like, you don't share what goes on in a clubhouse. That is like rule number one, right? Don't gamble on baseball and don't share anything in the clubhouse. They're right there, neck and neck. So he was like, you've been with the organization long enough. We know your character. We know what you represent. And he said, we're okay with you, what you show what you've been showing in those videos. So I think that was it. Right there. The reason nobody was doing stuff like this is because, number one, you're not supposed to. But number two, they allowed me to do that because they trusted me. They trusted me because I've been with the organization for so long. The coaches trusted me. They knew I was not going to put anything out there that, number one, was negative because I'm just a PGsman, right? 90s PG. That's me. And
that's my sweet spot.
and they knew I wasn't going to share. I'm not going to show, a guy with like ice on his shoulder if he's going through an injury. I'm not going to show the training room of something going on, somebody getting treatment that they're trying to keep, secret, whatever it is. I'm not going to air any of that stuff. I'm just going to have fun with it. And that's exactly what we did. And it became a thing. Back when everybody used to play board games in the clubhouse, everyone would do that. I'd been doing that for 10 years. I'm like kind of sick of this. I've played Pluck. I'm a pluctologist, man. I can't play Pluck anymore. I can't play spades. I can't play euchre. I can't play anything. I got to stop. I'm going to make these videos. And so it's almost like building a Lego set with your kid. You're building these little miniature videos that, could be from a movie or whatever it is. And you're doing it with teammates and they're willing to look stupid. And some guys were totally against it. And then they would see the final product from somebody else and they're like, all right, we got to do that. And so people came in and would give ideas. Hey, I saw this movie the other day. We should totally do this line. Or, hey, you look like the caddy from Happy Gilmore. That kind of stuff. And so it just took off. And I would have people, if they came in and had an idea, they had to be a part of it, whether they were a cameraman or they had to build some of the props that we would use, or they'd have to act in it. And we did everything, man. Anything you can think of, we would make these videos. And once the Dub Smash app got really terrible, I just started doing it on my own. So I could make them like a minute long, a minute and a half long. I could do 20 seconds. I could do anything with it. I could put in like little graphics with iMovie on my phone. And I always told myself, if I can't do it on my phone, I am not going to do it, because you have all this downtime as a player. So why not have some fun with it? So got a lot of attention, started making Spanish videos, like singing videos.
Nice.
I did that's where it really took off. I did Despacito, not the Justin Bieber version, but like the original that came out. And we were in spring training and one of our guys was like, dude, you got to do this song and I'll do it with you. I said, sweet. So we did this Despacito song and it blew up. And everyone's like, and now all the teammates that guys I didn't even know from like lower levels in spring training were like, I want to be in a video. I want to be in a video. We're going to do this.
I'm in.
And it was awesome. It's awesome.
Dude, that's so great. Well, hey, you know what? We've kept you for a very long time, but we really, really appreciate it, Tim.
Yes.
If you want to follow Tim on social media, it's at Dim Tillard. Switch the first letter of those names. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have to bring you back either sometime later in the off season or next year during the season. We can hit each other back up again, but really appreciate it, man. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
sorry for my long-winded answers.
No, it's perfect.
I took all of y'all's time. I'm doing nothing. I'm just sitting around the house. I should be doing dishes, but I'll get to it.
Well, anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Please follow, like, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Watch us on YouTube at SportsNet Pittsburgh. Michael McKenry, Tim Dillard. My name is Stephen Brault. Thank you for joining us here on Bucs Bounty, and we will see you next week.